Hello and welcome to week 4 of Robotics for All's Tinkercad class. In today's lesson, we're going to be learning about the advanced features in Tinkercad that can make modeling much easier and much faster. So the first feature that we're going to look at is called duplicate and repeat, and I think it's one of the most useful functions in Tinkercad. So let's try it out. I'm going to put a box right here, and then I'm going to click on the duplicate and repeat button in the top left of the screen. After I click that, you can see that there is another object, and I can drag that object basically wherever I want. I'm just going to put it right here, and then keeping this object selected, I'm going to click on duplicate and repeat again. As you can see, that made another box, and if I keep clicking, it'll make more boxes. The spacing between those boxes is the same as the spacing between the first and the second box. So as you can see, what duplicate and repeat does is that it repeats what you did the first time and does it again for any other duplications you might be doing. You can do the same action on a group of objects as I'm doing now, and you're not limited to only moving it in one dimension. You can move it upwards, downwards, in all three dimensions. You're also not just limited to moving, you can also do rotations and scaling. I'm going to show an example of using rotations and scaling on duplicate and repeat. For this example, I'm going to use a star, but obviously any shape can be used for duplications. I'm going to select the star and then click on duplicate and repeat. Then I'm going to drag out this star, move it up a bit, rotate it, and scale it up. Keeping this second star selected, I'm going to keep clicking duplicate and repeat. And as you can see, this resulted in a bunch of stars that are rotated, made larger, and are slightly higher than each one before it. So as you can see, duplicate and repeat is one of the most powerful functions in Tinkercad, and it really makes your modeling easier and makes it a lot faster, and also allows you to make things that were basically not possible to do without this feature. And the next feature in Tinkercad that's really useful is called align. So align is used when you have two or more objects and you want to align them along a plane or an axis. I'm going to demonstrate the align function by putting in three objects: box, cylinder, and sphere. Again, you can use the align function on any shape, but I just chose those three because they're simple. So ordinarily, without align, you would have to align those objects manually, which is quite difficult, and it's not very easy to do, and it takes a long time. So align makes it a lot easier. Just select all of the shapes that you want to align together, and then click on the align button in the top right. You can also just click on the L key on your keyboard. And now, as you can see, there are three sets of axis or groups of dots right here. And then on each axis, there are three dots. And if you hover over each of the dots, it'll show you a preview of where the objects will be if you click on the dot. I'm just going to align them along the center axis right here. Once I click it, those dots will become grayed out because you can't use them anymore. They're already aligned along this axis. As you can see, they're now all aligned along the same plane in the center, and that was pretty easy, only took one click. And next, if I want to align them like this, they'll just all be aligned along the same plane and they'll all be together. So I might not want to do that. And yeah, that's it for align. Now I can move this around, and the next tool that I want to talk about is the align tool. It makes it easy for you to align multiple objects along a common plane. And we're going to try it out with simple shapes, a box, a cylinder, and a sphere, but you can use align for basically any shape out there. I've placed them pretty randomly, and I've lifted this sphere up so that nothing is in alignment. And normally if you wanted to place them along the same line, it would take a lot of time and energy because you would have to drag them and you would have to align them with your eyes, which is difficult. So this is where align comes in. All I have to do is select all three objects, or any object that I want to align, click on the align tool, and then you can see that there are those black dots that pop up on the screen. There are three sets of black dots, and each one represents one direction in the XYZ space. If you hover over any of those dots, it'll show you how the objects will align once you click on them. So as I'm hovering over this dot, you can see that those three objects will be aligned along this plane if I click this dot. So that looks pretty good, so I'm going to click it. And as you can see, after I click the dots turn gray because I can no longer move the objects in this direction. And now they're aligned along one dimension, but this sphere is obviously still above the other ones, so we can use the set of dots here to align them. So I'm going to use the one on the bottom right here, and now all of them are aligned along the z-axis as well. The last one is not very useful here because it will just put them all on in the same space, so I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to double click to exit the align tool. So as you can see, this has made it really easy to align those shapes along a common plane or axis, and it's much faster than trying to do it by hand. The next feature that I'm going to talk about is called the work plane, and I'm going to demonstrate with a different shape. So I'm just going to delete those shapes and then put in a slightly more complicated shape. I'm going to use a star because it has a lot of slanted planes that make it hard to place features on any of the faces of the star because they're all slanted. And if you tried to place a feature on there, you would have to rotate it in weird ways and it will take a long time. This is where the work plane tool comes in. It's the button right here in the top right, and then once I click it, I can choose any plane to set as my work plane. I'm going to choose this surface right here as my work plane, and as you can see, Tinkercad has rotated the entire work plane to align with that plane on the star. Now it's really easy to place a feature on this face. I'm going to use a pyramid here, just for the sake of it, and I'm going to make it a little smaller. And now I can move the pyramid and it's right on the star. As you can see, it matches really well, and I don't have to do any of that rotation. I don't have to do any of that complicated rotations. I can just put it on there and then it'll be there. And now if I want to go back to my regular work plane, I can just click on work plane again and then click on the regular plane that's on the bottom. Now I'm back to my flat work plane and I can do whatever I want. As you can see, this is a pretty useful feature because you could put, say, text on a slanted surface, and it would be really easy to put the text there without having to deal with any of the complicated rotations or translations that you have to do if you didn't have work planes. So I've made a cool star here, but what if I wanted to 3D print it, but I didn't want it to be too big to fit in the 3D printer? A really easy way to do this, to measure the size of the object and keep track of it as you work, is the ruler tool, which is right here in the top right. I'm going to click on it, and then I can place the ruler wherever I want. As you can see, there is a red dot on the ruler, and that's going to be the origin of the coordinate system that the ruler is going to display in. So I'm going to place it right here. And now as you can see, this ruler has been placed, and it might not look like much, but once I click on any object, it will show me all of those numbers, which are useful for keeping track of the size and place of your objects. As I move the object around, you can see that the two numbers on the bottom left right here are changing. So this means that this number right here is the distance from the origin along this axis, and this number right here is also the distance from the origin, but along the other axis. And the number right here and the number right here are the sizes of the object, If I make it bigger, you can see that the numbers are becoming larger. This is also a measure of the size, but in the z-axis, and this one is a measure of its height. So now it's really easy for me to keep track of the size and location of the object as I work on it, and I don't have to worry about making my object too big because all of those numbers are immediately accessible. And if I'm done with the ruler, I can just click on Dismiss Ruler and it'll be gone. Alright, now I'm just going to delete everything I have here and I'm going to make even more shapes. But let's say you didn't like any of the shapes here or any of the other shapes that Tinkercad has to offer. What you can use instead is a shape generator, which is a really useful feature of Tinkercad that lets you make more complicated shapes without having to do any modeling basically on your own. I'm going to click on all shape generators and it's going to give me a big list of any shape generator that I could want basically. So I'm going to try doing this customizable house, and as you can see, this basically immediately gave me a house. But the fun part about shape generators is not that they can give you a shape on, like they can generate a shape for you, it's that you can customize them basically however you want. Obviously I can change the colors of this house, but what comes with a shape generator is that basically every single attribute of this house can be changed. If I increase the length, the house will become longer. This will take a while because those are complicated shapes, and depending on your computer it might take a bit more time for it to process. So as you're adjusting the sizes, wait until the size adjustment actually takes place to do the next step. And as you can see here, even more complicated adjustments are possible. I made it a skyscraper with a weird face-like structure right here, and I'm just going to make the roof height higher as well. You can make the door size bigger, and you can add more floors to this shape, and there's a lot of things that you can do. You can add a car. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you can do with this shape generators, and obviously it doesn't stop at a house. You can make a wall, you can make shapes of maps, you can do, there are a lot of things that you can do, and I encourage you to try them out, try a few of them out, and it really makes a lot of it much easier because you don't have to make your own, say, gear, and you can just click on this gear and then customize the number of teeth you want and customize the size by using a shape generator. So that's about it for today's lesson, and thank you for watching.